Hello everyone, I'm Ula Jacobs and I'd like to share with you my journey back to health. I should qualify that I'm not a medical doctor, so none of this is meant to be medical advice. It's just for interest's sake what my journey was. It all began when I came off the birth control pill, which I'd been on for 2 years, and that was enough. A few days later, I broke out in a giant rash, red rash all over my face. And as I was still tied to allopathic medicine at the time, I went to my doctor and he put me on a major dose of antibiotics. And what I didn't realize then, but do now in hindsight, which is 2020, 50-50 in this case, it showed that a dysbiosis that was already there was made a whole lot worse. So I started to have these dreams, and it was a parlor game to me at the time. You know, I had a dream dictionary and I was always looking up, well, what does this mean and what does that mean? So suddenly I was having these reoccurring dreams, and they all pointed, just a couple of them, all pointed to the fact that I was going to have a long illness. And I thought, whoa, I wasn't already feeling really great. And I thought, what the heck is this? So in the early 80s, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And I thought, okay, here it is. And I was put on some really strong medication, which was quite expensive, but even worse, it made me feel terrible. And I got all these symptoms of flu right away. And of course, at that time, the knowledge was still very limited, and I didn't know it then, but I do know now, and that was a die-off situation of what was going on in my body. The medication was actually killing something because there was a huge overload, but I'll get to that later. About a year in, I went for a blood test. They wanted me to come in, and as soon as the results came back, the doctor phoned me up immediately, and he said, get off that medication right now. And I said, okay, what's going on? And he said, well, the white count is extremely low, and we need that to come back up before you take any more of that stuff. So I thought, okay, I think I better go and have a chat with him, because I was not thrilled that that was a side effect of what was happening here, along with everything else. And it still wasn't making me feel really great. So I went to the doctor and I said, okay, if I go back on this, how long is it going to be until I can be off this stuff and I'm well again? And he kind of gave me a deer in the headlights look. Well again, he said, there's no cure for ulcerative colitis. He said, you're going to have to be on medication for the rest of your life. And I thought, okay, bye. And walked out of there and immediately said to myself, that's unacceptable. I'm not going there. That's just not acceptable to me. So the researcher in me immediately got to work. And I have to say that in the early 80s when this transpired, there was no internet. All I had working for me was the health food store, which was great. I had a library, which didn't have a huge amount of information, but some. And I had bookstores. So that's it. And I went to the health food store and I got a really great periodical that was a monthly magazine that had a lot of stuff of products, what people were experiencing and what it was helping, and you know, all of that kind of stuff in it. And I found that bee propolis was good for bringing up immunity. So I got on that. It was a little capsule of bee propolis, and I got on that, and sure enough, it did keep the symptoms away, because of course when I went off that medication, the symptoms came back right away. So then I did keep it in check with bee propolis, and that worked for a while, for quite a while actually. And but it never really tackled getting better, like getting the whole thing better, because the moment I went off it, of course, everything came back, right? So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to try something else. So then after that, I heard about aloe vera juice, and I thought, okay, I'll try aloe vera juice. And it's actually an antibiotic, an antiviral, and, you know, antibacterial, the whole 9 yards, basically. And a really great product that doesn't cause any side effects unless you're allergic to it, which I wasn't, and my body really tolerated it well. So I was on that for a while. And again, that worked for a while, but then the moment I went off it thinking, hey, I'm better, So at the very lowest point of this illness, which was probably about year 8, I was sapped of energy and I was just feeling lousy. I had entered a contest at the health food store, and it had 3 prizes, and I thought, hey, prize number 1, a holiday in Hawaii would be really cool right now. But what I did win, I won the 3rd prize, and that actually worked a whole lot better for me than a holiday would have at that time. I received a canister in the mail, and it had 30 packages of vitamins and minerals, and each package had what I needed for 1 day serving. So I had 30 servings, which was a month. So I hadn't been on any supplements at that time as such, like vitamins and things. So I thought, okay, let's give this a try. And then that's what I did. I did 30 days of that. And after 30 days, I was feeling a whole lot stronger, mentally as well as physically. And I started to say very loudly, someone has to be able to help me with this. And that is bing, bang, boom. A bunch of things happened together, were dependent on what other people were doing as well, to get me to an iridologist. And with my knowledge now, I understand that the free will factor of myself was working, and my guides were not going to be helping me unless I asked for help. And that statement, very vocal, very loud, put them to work and connected me with an iridologist that was in Vancouver, and I live in the outskirts of Victoria. So I went over there, and she basically looked into my eyes as an iridologist, and she said, I don't see colitis here. I don't see any form of colitis here. And then she got out a darker, like a more specific light and better, stronger glasses, and took another look, and she said, no, I don't see any ulcerative colitis here. And I said, okay, Carol, if that's not what it is, what have I got that I've had for over 8 years? And she said, what I see is a yellow ring around the iris, like around the pupil in the iris, and that says to me that this is yeast. It's Candida albicans, and it's in both eyes. It's in the large intestine. Like to what iridology is, I should point out, is there's certain triggers within the iris of the eye that shows you the health of the body, kind of like reflexology with the feet, and things in the hands and stuff. They'd show you, for a practitioner, they can see what's going on within the body. So this is what she saw. She saw an overrun of Candida yeast, and I said, okay, what do I do? How do I get rid of it? And she said, well, I happen to know a guy in North Vancouver. He's a naturopath. His name is John Matson, and he's been known to help this thing. And I thought, oh, okay, I had just read his book, because on the advice of friends of mine that lived in Vancouver, who knew what I was going through, said, hey, read this book, and I did. And I thought, okay, there's the second prompt to go to see him. So I'd previously seen that there was a test case in his book of a lady that had exactly the same symptoms as I had. And I thought, okay, if he can cure her in 3 weeks, which he did, he can cure me in 3 weeks. I was determined that this, if this was a precedent here, hey, I'll take it, right? So we went there, and he concurred that this was not colitis. This was definitely yeast. So I was placed on a product called mycosidin at the time, and it did eradicate all of the overgrowth of the candida in the large bowel. And then what he did additionally, which I hadn't been doing because I'd been killing it with the propolis and I'd been killing it with the aloe vera, but I had not been putting back. So what he did was he recolonized the large intestine with heavy-duty probiotics to put the good back, because the good had been taken out by all of what had gone previously. So which actually, we all have yeast, but what happened was when the good was destroyed, the yeast had a bit of a foothold and basically took over. And the whole thing was a dysbiosis. So he cleared me up in 3 weeks, and I was fine. And then I came home and I thought, okay, I'm going to make some changes here. And what I did was I got rid of all the whites out of our diet, which was white sugar, white flour, white rice, and we didn't really do any milk, so there wasn't any milk problem there. I was already on rice milk at that time, now on oat milk. But anyways, those changes were made, and then I kicked out anything that had additives, and there wasn't a lot in our diet already because I was making a lot of stuff from scratch. But a few things went out the door, and then they never came back in. And we eventually became vegetarians, and that came about because we started doing a vegetarian meal once a week, and then really looked forward to it after a few weeks. And then I thought, okay, well, let's take this further, do a few more in a week. And so we did a few more, and then a few months went by, and we kind of looked at each other and went, well, why are we still eating meat when we're looking forward to the vegetarian meals, and we're feeling a whole lot better with it, and the body's a lot healthier with it. It felt a lot better with it. So at that point, we became total vegetarians, joined the vegetarian organization in town, met some really awesome people that became really good friends, and we would do potlucks once a month and just share information, and it was just a really wonderful time. So in the meantime, I had picked up a lot of information while I went into research when I was ill, and I got into the parapsychology. I took a Reiki course. I learned pranic healing, studied Theosophy, which is the Madame Blavatsky material, into reincarnation from there, Ayurveda, TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine, and of course I studied more of the iridology and what was possible to see and read. And I've got a really great book by Bernard Jensen that I can consult anytime. And what I also encountered at that time was the mind-body connection. And I had no idea that that's what it was then, because my consciousness level wasn't there yet, but it is now. And when I, further to the dream state, when I was getting all those messages of a long illness, 8 years in, I started to get other dreams that were reoccurring again, like 2, 3 a week, every week. And those pointed to the end of an illness, an end of a long illness, end of an illness. And I thought, okay, I'll take it. And at that point, I stopped thinking about how bad the symptoms were at that time, and how bad were they from the day before, and you know, where will they be tomorrow, and all of that. My focus was on symptoms. Now, having had that dream state changed to, okay, this is the end, I began to think about wellness and just let the other stuff all go. And that's exactly what I needed to do. And this was exactly part of the healing as well. And then, of course, it coincided with getting the vitamins, and it coincided with getting me to the iridologist, and all of it kind of worked together. So it was a process, but you had to go through one to get to another one, and it just became congruent to getting me well, and I am well now. And I just want to say something about the mind-body connection, because there is science that backs it, and that science was researched by Dr. Candace Pert, and she discovered that there are neuropeptides in the brain, and that there are neuropeptide receptors in all its cells and organs of the body. And those two are linking up on a constant basis. So what that said to me was foreman, rest of the body, crew. So the crew is taking instructions from the foreman constantly. And that really helped me to understand that the negative focus on anything, especially when it comes to health, is just not congruent to anything wonderful in our life. So that was a major eye-opener for me, and that was a really interesting way to go down the research path, because I knew somebody was already getting to the fact that this actually is a thing, rather than just me looking at a dream dictionary, which worked for me, but hey, you know, it does exist. So vitamins and minerals, the 30 pack, was a large turnaround for me at the time that I needed it the most. And I still maintain a regimen now of a supplement routine to ensure that the body gets what it needs. with good, healthy food, organically grown. We have growers here in the season and some year round. And I also grow our own veg for the part of the year. We also have great stores here that have organic fruits and veg. So I don't do anything that isn't organically grown if I can help it. And most of the time that works because there's so much out there now, which there wasn't in the 80s when I was doing this. So that's really great. That's a really good thing to have available now. If it's there, use it, right? I have vowed to myself to never, ever, ever return back to where I was with this illness. And the mind-body connection helps me achieve this, as well as the good food and the vitamins and staying positive within the energy of the thoughts, because the thoughts are energy, and we are a whole lot more powerful than we realize. And it's been kept from us for a long time, but I think we're going into an age now where all that's going to come to the forefront again. In the next video, I'd like to address the law of one. So we'll get into that and see what's up with that, and that's really cool too. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Let's shake it up.